My name is Chris Bates. I am a cybersecurity expert. I was originally scheduled to come speak to the Positive Supports Academy in person, but due to the obvious circumstances, that's no longer possible. That is actually a very good place to start discussing how to make plans and why making plans is something that can seem to be useless at some points, but is absolutely necessary uh, at every turn when someone is trying to do something in any field. So when we originally made the plan to have a meeting and discuss cybersecurity, um, nothing on a pandemic scale had happened yet. So there was no concept of not being able to meet in person. That is a completely different planet, and that was only 4 months ago. Um, and I think in that, it's important to understand that you can make a plan 3 months ahead, and the entire world can change in that 3 months. That's not to say that you shouldn't make the plan. So now, because the world has changed, we've altered our plan and moved ahead with it in the form of a recording, which can then be accessed at any point in time by someone who has access to the file. So when I originally planned to come speak to the class, if nobody had recorded it, the only people who would ever been able to hear what I had to say would have been in that classroom. Um, Maybe that's good for those people, but for anyone who needed to hear what I had to say, then they missed an opportunity because they weren't in that room. The internet allows us to leave messages in time in a way that is changing communication and has altered communication forever. But teachers and institutions don't want to modify how they work in order to address these changes. So you see a lot of professors resisting the move to online courses because they don't understand the internet, how to leverage it as a tool, or how to transition their teaching into an online format. That's not the topic of discussion, but the issue is that now they've all been forced to do it. And now, when everyone is forced to do it, how do we navigate this? One of the issues is that there aren't very many cybersecurity experts, period. And um, if you look around, not many people are consulting cybersecurity experts on anything. So, on the one hand, there's a huge opportunity to get skills in the cybersecurity area and become useful, but this is in the context of a society that is in the middle of a pandemic that also ignores medical professionals for meme information and conspiracy theory. So in that culture, it may feel pointless to pursue academic pursuits, but it is better to be misunderstood by idiots than to make yourself dumb to fit in. Um, and this is the problem with being in an anti-intellectual society. It's very difficult to uh, have knowledge that is based on scientific method and then have someone try to refute that knowledge based on something they read on Facebook or in a meme somewhere. Um, so it can feel very defeating to exist right now if you have any sort of intellectual pursuit. But that is also sort of a validation. If you have radical ideas, it doesn't mean that they're right. if people reject them now, but um, it's not a bad thing if people are not accepting of your ideas. If you have something that you think that you believe in that is seen as radical by older people. Now, in that context, one of the things that we have happening right now is like there are people waiting for checks to be sent out. Well, you're seeing advertisements being made for requesting assistance with the COBOL coding language. Now, why is this relevant? So, COBOL is a coding language that was originally launched in 1959, I believe. Um, so, our government systems that people are depending on right now to get money that they are in dire need of is being sent out using 60-year-old software and hardware systems. So I know that you can go fact check it. Please do. COBOL, COBOL. You can also go check to see that there are advertisements having news stories written about them because the government needs people to have that skill to help them because they are understaffed, but also using a 60-year-old coding language. So there's many things about this that um, demonstrate why it's taking our government a month to send out a check. The government decided last month that they needed to send out these checks. It's a month later and they still haven't sent them out because they're using 60-year-old software to do it. That has nothing to do with any party. It has nothing to do with the left wing. It has nothing to do with the right wing. That has to do with 70-year-old people uh, deciding how our infrastructure is run. And ultimately, those people don't want to learn anything new, so they're using the same systems that they had when they were kids. And that's not an exaggeration. It's literally the same computer systems that were in place when they were children. Um, and as a cybersecurity professional, it puts you in a position where you need to plan for the future that could potentially come, but also there has to be a transition to that future, and it has to be a plausible way to that future. Um, so when we're talking about getting to a technologically advanced future, we also have to deal with the old people who want to use systems built in 1959 as the basis for the air traffic control system, or sending out money every week, or it can't be every week since it's not good enough. They send out money as frequently as they can. So when we're talking about people that perpetually do not want to learn anything new, but also are dictating how the youth will be positioned in the workforce, you have to plan understanding that there is a potential future in which we break free from this paradigm and we actually have the artificial intelligence that people are worried, there are a lot of people who base their idea of technology off of movies, and we're so far away from the artificial intelligence that people are scared of because old people are in power. And it's not to say that we should move towards the dystopian future. It's just a matter of the whole reason that we get presented these dystopian uh, media as if we can't ever have artificial intelligence or robots is because the only actual way to liberate the working class is through robots and automation. So it's to the old paradigm's benefit if people are scared of technology, if they think 5G is going to give them coronavirus or some stupid, idiotic nonsense that keeps people scared of technology, um, because you see things like people right now saying, "Oh, 5G is what's spreading coronavirus." Well, why is why are people in Ghana getting coronavirus when they don't have 5G? Why are people in Italy just now getting it when they installed 5G in 2017? It's clearly misinformation that's being put out there to keep people scared of technology, just like the Luddites were when people were trying to um, get rid of the printing presses and uh, radio in the early 1900s because they didn't want to have their or the machines that were manufacturing. They didn't want to lose their manufacturing jobs. It was the printing presses in the 1400s and the manufacturing lines in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So anytime you have people who are workers, but also in a feudal context where they are subjects of a ruling class, when their jobs are threatened, their livelihood is threatened. So we cannot have the people whose lives and livelihood are threatened by automation come out of this and lose. So this is kind of where, in terms of cybersecurity, why is this relevant? Cybersecurity is relevant to everything that is digital, but also the physical aspects of those digital elements. So if you have a satellite that is carrying you an internet signal, then that is in the realm of cybersecurity. If you have a server house that is an actual warehouse holding a bunch of servers, the perimeter of that building is in the realm of cybersecurity. If you have people using the internet and those people are subject to misinformation, which could then potentially result in social engineering, that is also in the realm of cybersecurity. So why do I say all these things? Cybersecurity doesn't just mean dealing with code or coding or hacking or anything that is the way that it's framed in the movies. Cybersecurity is effectively everything that deals with anything digital and the physical elements to secure those things or facilitate those things, which is why it has subdivisions. So if someone is looking to get into cybersecurity, you can really look to see from the angle that you're interested in. So if you're into engineering or hardware building, you can look at cybersecurity from the hardware angle. If you're into psychology and the social aspect, you can look at it from the social engineering angle. Um, and I think in this aspect, it's a lot easier to get into cybersecurity than people realize. But because it is such an intimidating field, people are less likely to uh, get into it by themselves without some sort of mentoring or prodding. So, um, all that said, there are ways to make a plan and have that plan have the most likelihood of success. But as 2020 has shown, there are times when no plan will ever have seen anything coming, and there's no way to have that plan work the way it was originally intended. So you have to accommodate and adjust. Um, so there are many things that people can do to get into cybersecurity, but I would not suggest trying to be like, oh, what's going to happen in 5 years? What's going to happen in 10 years? Because nobody knows. There's no way to tell. And it's good to have a personal plan, but basing one's goals off of what the market anticipates and what the market is seeming to do is a sure way to end up having to file unemployment because you lost your job because you had no idea what was coming. So um, I definitely would suggest keeping a there is a way that you can have multiple skills that aren't in the same field. So if you are a baker, or you can cut hair, or you can sew, or you can you know do landscaping, there's all these things that you can do as a counterbalance to um, one pursuit in a career and industry to ensure that you're never without um, stable opportunities, because there are times when you can have skills and be without work. But as long as you have skills that are useful to someone, you will have opportunities.